This conference will now be recorded.
Ya Madad.
Mulali Madat Niamat sahibah.
Mulali Madad.
Maulali Madad.
Maulali Madad.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nur Maulana Shah Karim Hussain Hasima Mushkil Kusha Meherban Maula Madad Farma Madad Farma Madad Farma Tawfiq Taeed Himmat Wayari Maula Tawfiq Taeed Himmat Wayari Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel wa ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal nasir. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel wa ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal nasir. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel wa ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal nasir. Ali Allah madad farma. जी
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We begin today with point 8, page 13. Point 8, evidence of numbers. There are many divine secrets in the natural agreement of the nations of the world in the basic figures or symbols of counting. These figures, according to all of them, are 10, which are as follows: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These figures are also called numbers, which show the quantity of things, just as letters show their quality. A great difference between numbers and letters is that each of the numbers shows the quantity of a thing even on its own, without combination. But this possibility is lacking in letters. The purpose of this explanation is that in ascertaining realities, the proof of numbers are very firm and tenable. The reason for this is that in the determination of numbers, there is certainly the hand of God. Therefore, among the nations of the world, there is no disagreement in the principles of their values and calculation. Would you like?
Subhanallah Subhanallah. Thank you. So this is so important, and truly there are so many secrets in this paragraph that it is very powerful to realize and understand that how numbers have so many secrets within it. And this paragraph is pretty clear that we do understand that all the world actually, everybody accept the power of numbers. It is accepted. And when we take the number zero, zero has no value. But when the zero is added to some other number, definitely there is a value. And in comparison to letters, letters would express, whereas words would quantify. So that is the difference. And we understand that without any difficulty. Why are we talking about evidence of numbers? Numbers are actually proofs, and everybody accepts it. The way it says here that in ascertaining realities, the proofs of numbers are very firm and tenable. Everybody would accept that. Everybody would accept the power of numbers, the determination of numbers, the certainty of the numbers. When we look at the study of numbers and truly get into depth of numbers, we would realize that definitely there is a hand of God, that Allah has created these numbers, and all the nations and the world accept this. There is no disagreement. There is no disagreement about values and calculation. If we have understood that this is a materialistic, physical, understanding of the numbers, then comes the spirituality part. And there are so many beautiful secrets hidden. Let's see Maula's, with Maula's mercy, we will talk about it. Ji.
Among numbers, zero is the example of the spiritual world because it is above quantity. That is, counting does not apply to it, because soul in itself is an indivisible substance, except when it is related to different bodies, just as zero individually does not represent any value. In fact, in any level of calculation, when it is used on its own, it negates the quantity of that level. But no doubt, when it is used with another number, it represents a quantity with the help of that number. Thus, it is evident that zero is the example of the spiritual world.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah. How logically and beautifully we understand that zero in itself has no value. So it is nothing. And we do know that when we talk of spiritual world, it is nothing. It is from La. But when we say nothing, I hope you are with me, you understand we are talking about La, nothing. But when we start counting, actually it's a material world, it's a physical world. And just this sentence, soul in itself is an indivisible substance. And actually, soul, the spirituality is represented by zero. In reality, when we talk of that maqam where it is la, nothing, soul is one, single soul. And it is never divided. The particle of soul, the drop of soul is within us, and we can count our physical body. But when we talk of soul, it cannot be divided. If we were to understand this principle and really apply it, truly understand it, so many questions will die down. So many questions. Questions related to death, birth, soul, where does it come from? Where does it go? All those questions are null and gone. But because we don't learn these principles and apply it properly. Now, when we read this, that soul is indivisible substance, we are never disconnected from Imam. Never. When we die, where will soul go? It is with Imam, will be with Imam. Somehow, sometimes I feel like that in Western world, there is so much of emphasis on, death and sadness and going to the graveyards. If you were to go back in our side, Islamic countries, we don't give importance to, graveyards and death. We don't. And in Ismaili tariqa, we say it's a living tariqa. And what we say, everything is living. Why? Because we believe that soul in itself is an indivisible substance. We get the bodies, we come to this world, and then we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But as soon as we take of soul, it is zero, because we cannot give numbers to the spiritual world. In any level of calculation, when it is used on its own, it is used with another number. So when 0 is with 1, it can become 10, or 8 and 0, it can become 80. But 0 in itself has no value. No value meaning what? In physical terms. When we are saying 0 has no value, then we are quantifying it. But 0 for us also represents spiritual world, because there is no counting, there is no quantification. And that logic in itself tells us how beautifully that 0 is a powerful number. 0 represents the spiritual world. And just by understanding this one paragraph, if we truly understand that principle, I believe so many questions which we repeatedly hear in Jamaat, it will be all gone. It will be all gone. Soul is one that single soul, and we are always connected. We are not divided or separate. We are always connected. And in that context, we are talking about that maqam, which is of La, which is zero, which is nothingness. But we are talking about the spiritual world. But when we talk of our physical world, we start one, two, three counting. So this world is a world of multiplicity. That world is world of oneness. The soul is one and only one soul. And when we talk of spiritual world, we say it is zero because there is nothing. It is the maqam of La, Ji,
Disrespectfully, Niamat Sahibah, may I ask a question?
Ji.
Niamat Sahibah, for this Garib and Nachiz, will you please say yet more about all those questions that would disappear? Can you go a little bit more?
For example, um, all the question related to soul. Where did the soul come from? When someone dies, where does the soul go? Um, what happens to soul when they die? When somebody dies with sickness, cancer, a lot of pain, what will happen to that soul? Or somebody who commits suicide, what will happen to that soul? Soul is indivisible. So it is connected to Imam. Where it is going to go? To Imam. Yes, within the Imam, then we will come to next paragraph and understand that how our deeds matter. Whatever we do in the physical world, we all guard this body for one purpose only. The only objective of our life is to recognize Him. That is our main purpose. Everything else is just to keep us busy and filter who are those who will get distracted by this world, which is like a dream, and then who are those who can see beyond this dream world and stay focused. So that is another level. But all those questions related to soul, what will happen to the soul who is not smiley? What will happen to the soul which is a smiley? Like interfaith marriages, friends would ask, oh, my husband is this and my son is married outside. What will happen to his soul? Soul is one, and Imam has the title of Imam Nas and Imam al Muttaqin. So at that level, when we look at spiritual world, it is one single soul, and that is Imam. Imam is that Aklikul Nafsikul, and through him we are here, and we are connected. We are never separated. We are never separated. Let it be smiley or non-smiley. We all are his children. But yes, his attention is on us because we are in bayat of him. We physically recognize him and we say we are submitting ourselves. And then those who continue to walk on the path of true recognition of Imam, definitely they elevate themselves. So there is one concept of elevation. So think of Imam as a ladder. Within Imam, there are levels of paradise within Imam. For example, take ourselves, right? Take ourselves. And when we listen to this beautiful Ginan, in which Pir says um, that how Isma Azam will climb up and it will reach to forehead. The Pir is actually talking about that there are levels within our being, each individual. Now, where are those levels? We see in our body just organ, all different organs. But then soul is only one. So how these ladders are there? The soul which is more awake. Remember, we have talked about the world of particles within our being. Rome, Rome, Maru Shahavasi. There is one soul which is I, which is you, me, our name, Shahla, Niamat. It's our soul. One soul which has identification with consciousness, with intellect. All the supporting souls, all other souls, the more we wake up our being, we continue to climb up the ladder. And when the Isme Azam, that is the key, when the Isme Azam is recited the way it has to be recited, and we complete this Isme Azam and we bring it to our Bhamar Gufa, which is forehead. The paradise here is here. And when we connect to our forehead the way it is ought to be, Isme Azam is completed, meaning there is immediate realization. The eye opens up and we are able to see how we are connected to Imam. And then there is a realization that this soul and that soul is not separate, it's not different, it is one. When there is no realization, then there is counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when we are counting, meaning we are saying we are somebody. So the talimat, when we start talimat in true knowledge, what are we being taught? Say you are nothing, you are nobody. Become so ajiz, be on the dust of the feet of the mu'minin. Become nothing. By becoming so humble, the elevation of the soul starts. And the soul goes through the realization, waking up, and definitely there has to be practice. Ilm and amal, ibadat and ilm has to be all together. This body has to do the sacrifice, kurbani, of committing to what we need to do, give time and take effort. And when the Isme Azam is climbing up, the Zikr Ibadat is going up, all that connection and riyazat to ibadat helps us see how it is one soul, but it starts from becoming nobody. So let's say, where does the soul come from? It is coming from Imam and it is going to Imam. Questions of Ismaili, non-Ismaili, this or that dies down. Somebody who dies with the sickness or somebody dies in the womb of a mother, where does the soul go? It is all with Imam. My mother went this way, my father went that way. He was Imani, he was not Imani. All these are due to lack of knowledge. Soul is one and the same, and it is with the Imam. Yes, within Imam, then there are darajat. So let's read the next paragraph, then it will make the complete picture in our mind.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Zero is followed by one, which is the example of the ninth heaven, because it is the middle rank between spirituality and corporeality. That is, beyond the ninth heaven is the spiritual quality, and within it is the corporeal quantity. Just as before one there is zero, which is the example of the spiritual world, and after one there are 8 numbers, which are the examples of the 8 heavens within the ninth heaven, which together are called the physical world.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah. So let me share my screen. I was thinking, how will I explain to you all so you understand it? So this is what we are talking about, right? We have zero, nothing, and then we start counting. And zero is a spirituality. Zero is a spiritual world, spirituality. So no counting, nothing. But when we talk of one, number one, the one is the ninth heaven. This is the topmost heaven. Then this is the heaven underneath, 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 underneath. But if I were to form a circle, the ninth heaven is the topmost heaven. And within that ninth heaven, if I were to have circle, I would have another circle within it, another circle within it, another circle within it. And that's how we will have all these heavens within it. The ninth heaven is the topmost heaven. So let's say if we just take the physical example of our body, that, our heart, our intellect, and there are belly, physical body. And if let's just take these 3 organs, right? 3 body parts and take the example. If someone is always with the physical belly, eating, living, wanting, desiring, the rank is very low, meaning that the animalistic soul is so overpowering that they are not able to climb up to the higher heavens, higher paradise. Now we will remain at one because we are all are human. We all are humans, meaning we have the capability to remain like an animal or to become like an angel. How does that happen? Our own free will, the way we think, the way we make choices, that helps us climb up the ladder. So there are some who may stay at the level of just one, they never go up. But then there are those who continue to go further. The ninth heaven is the example of the Bhamar Gufa, right? The ninth heaven is that where Isme Azam is completed. Why am I talking like that? Because we understand these terminologies, it will be easier for us to understand. If we were to go into Quran, each heaven has a different name to it, an understanding to it. But what does it mean? To make it simplify, this represents darjat. This represents darjat. Zero being the spiritual world. You cannot count, there's no quantification. And then the ninth heaven is the first, highest, most, topmost heaven. And then comes the lower level of heaven's paradise. All these are darajat, and everyone is connected to that single soul, which is the Imam. The connection is dependent on the riyazat or ibadat. If this person who is here, the example we took was very much living life as an animal, meaning slave to the carnal soul, slave to nafse amara. What I want, otherwise I'll be angry. That kind of person is going to remain here. Why at one? Why do they begin at the level of one? Because they were given the soul has come as a human being. It's a higher level of soul. It is not a vegetative soul. It is not an animal soul. It is not a mineral soul. It is human soul, rational soul, who has the ability to climb up the ladder. All right. So zero is followed by one, which is the example of the ninth heaven. So this is the one which is the ninth heaven. Because it is the middle rank between spirituality and corporeality. This is all we are representing the worldly life, and this is the spiritual life. That is beyond the ninth heaven is the spiritual quality, and within it is the corporeal quality. Quantity. This is the corporeal quantity because we are counting in numbers. Just as before one, there is zero, which is the example of the spiritual world. After one, there are eight numbers, which are example of the eight heavens within the ninth heaven, which together are called the physical world. So we are calling this physical world because we are counting. When we are talking about the spiritual world, there is no count. G.
The explanation also shows that the superiority of one among all the things of a species is natural. Thus, in the species of man as well, there is an individual who is unique in his time in the perfection of human attributes, and who naturally and miraculously is the source of intellect and soul for the rest, just as the number one is the cause of the existence of the rest of the numbers, because the units of every number have the support of the meaning of the number one. Thus the one who is matchless in his time, and whose excellence is demonstrated by the example of numbers, is the perfect man, that is, the Imam of the time. And this evidence of the external world confirms the evidence of the Quran, which is, O Prophet, say, I exhort you about one. Unquote. Surah 34, Ayat 46.
So let's start with 34 by 46, in which Allah says to Prophet that I instruct you, I teach you about one reality, one. That one is that one single soul. Okay? And that one, remember, we are talking about evidence, proof of imamat from different evidences. And here we are talking about evidences from numbers. So when we talk of that one, Imam is physically present in this world. He is the ninth heaven. He is the Imam. So when we talk of all the numbers, zero being representing the spiritual world, and the first, which represents the ninth heaven, that ninth heaven, that first individual, that one who is above all in the humanity, that perfect man, that is Imam of the time. That is Imam of the time. He is matchless in his time. His attributions are above all. No human can match their attributions with the perfect man, Insane Kamil, that is Imam. Just like in the example of numbers, that one in all the number is the first number, and Imam is that. So when we are talking about proof of Imamat, proof of excellence in every different aspects we've been studying, in the numbers, that one is actually Imam. In within that one, we also are understanding the concept of single soul. But when we talk about physical world, the corporal reality, we do talk of numbers, quantification, alam e kasrat. There are multiplication. But within that multiplication, that one is Imam and he is above all the humans. His attributions are, he's exemplary and he's excellent above all the humans. So let's go further, and it says, superiority of one among all the things of a species is natural. And we talked about it, right? In the example of all the flowers, rose is the most superior. When we talk of the example of all animals, lion is the king of animals, so on. Similarly, in the physical world of humans, when we talk of different individuals having different attributions, unique talents and whatnot. But when we talk of Imam, no one is like Imam. Imam is perfect. His attributions are perfect. He is the source of that miraculous intellect and soul. All humans do also have soul and intellect, but Imam is Akle Kul and Nafse Kul. How are we saying that? Through the example of numbers. That when we say one, it becomes the cause of existence of the rest of the numbers. If there is no one, then there would be no numbers. The units of every number have the support of the meaning of the number one. Thus, the one who is matchless in his time and whose excellence is demonstrated by the example of numbers is the Imam of the time. But very interestingly, I do want to again bring our attention that how, when we are talking about number one being the Imam, the ninth heaven, but when we talk of spirituality, it is represented as zero. And when we say Imam in physical world being the number one, and when we talk of a spiritual world wanting to become one with the Imam, we have to realize what is the importance of the zero, which represents the spiritual world? Nothing. And here is that concept of humility. And being humble is very broad concept. When Hazimam says that we have to follow the ethics of Islam, it starts from humility, but it takes everything, all types of taqwa we've been talking about, purity we've been talking about, including piety at the level of physical, spiritual, and intellectual. No judgment, no gossip, all those spiritual diseases. But having the ethics at a higher level, meaning having this true knowledge to be able to realize how Imam is Imam. He is so exalted, and we are so blessed to be in Bayat of Imam. So, how joyous we should be, how humble we should be, how ethical we should be, that Imam is with us. Remember the very important lesson. It is a very important secret, actually. But if we were to understand this as a principle and apply it always on any question related to soul, we will have no difficulty and we will be able to identify the answer so easily, that the soul itself is indivisible. And we all are connected to soul through soul. There is no division. This body is dividing, but soul is connected. Those who are able to close their eyes and remember Imam with full focus, they immediately are able to see how they are connected. And for that, Imam has given us Isme Azam. So, our practice of ibadat would help us realize Manarfa, who Manarfa nafsehi faqad arfa rabbihi. The one who recognizes themselves will recognize the Lord. What is that recognition? It is recognition of that soul which is indivisible. We are from that soul and we are not separate from him. Ji,
Niamat, this is Shabira. Can I ask you a question, please?
ji.
It's a little bit technical. I get the gist of it all. So, when you displayed the Durja, right, from one going down to eight, I understand the eighth heavens within the ninth, and I can understand how, going downwards, nine becomes one again. And in this ladder at the bottom, then one is the lowest level. We're human, we're rational souls, but we have the lower nafs, and we want to elevate ourselves. But it's really odd that at the bottom nine is equal to one as well. I'm just curious.
It's
Um,
not okay. I did it in rush. It's not equal. What I'm saying in this book, the way it
oh,
is describing that the
yes,
one is the highest number,
yes,
okay, and
yes,
nine is going down. So
yes,
there are two ways it is being explained. That
yes,
zero is a spiritual, and when we talk of one, we actually start talking about corporeal reality, the physical
yes,
world. So it is
yes,
going down. Okay, so
yes.
we start from spirituality and then we are coming to the physical world. But when we totally separately talk about the heavens, then ninth is the topmost heaven. There are nine heavens. So ninth is the topmost heaven. That's how I'm talking about it. Not that this nine is equal to one, but in explanation that in this physical world, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are the numbers. Okay? Because all other numbers are due to these numbers. You add 1 to it and they become 10 and 20 or 90 or 100 or whatever. Right?
Yes, I get it. I thought that's what you
Yeah.
meant, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that there
Yeah.
wasn't.
So you're right.
Yeah,
It's
I got
equal to is misleading you.
it.
Ji.
Thank you.
Shukran, Mola.
There's another question, Yamataba.
Ji.
Can you explain this as a circle?
It becomes easy if we have a circle, right? Oops. So if I were to have a circle here, the big circle will be the ninth heaven. Meaning, let's take the example that is Imam. Imam's personal world. Within that ninth, there is another circle which is eight, smaller circle seven, smaller circle. That's how we can imagine. It's all about imagination so we can understand the concept behind it. So, from the smallest circle, we want to get to the ninth heaven, which is the Imam. The first, when we talk of this first being a human soul, when we get this body, soul is Imam's soul. But when we get this body, we come to physical world, we have this choice to remain like an animal or to benefit from our rational soul to walk on the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim and become like an angel, because Imam says my murids are like angels, right? So in order for us to become angels, what do we need to do? We need to follow the faramins. We need to become true followers of faramin with conviction. When we do ibadat, ilm, all that which we've been learning, the ethics, we follow that, then we start climbing up the ladder. We start climbing up the ladder. And a Mu'min as Salik who is completely awake, an Arif Kamil, can reach to that level of ninth heaven. For example, our Pir, let's say Pir Sadruddin. Pir Sadruddin lived in subcontinent and Hazimam was in Iran, Iraq, so far away. But Pir was one with the Imam, and all the talimat our Pirs were getting, they were directly given to the Pir in their heart because their heart was connected to Imam. They were in the ninth heaven. And that's how they were able to teach about Imam, realities, and his recognition. And we were smileys due to the hidayat of our Pir Mai Bap. So that is the example of the ninth heaven. The concept here we have learned in the form of numbers, that when we look at the zero, that represents the world of spirituality. In the physical world, zero is nothing, no counting. It has no it has no weightage. The weightage in the physical world is one. And when we talk like that, then that one is who? One is the Imam. But when we bring it to another concept of heavens, then we can say ninth heaven, meaning being in Imam. And all these heavens are below it. So there's a bigger circle, smaller, 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 and then the ninth smallest circle within that, the first circle. So there are 9 circles. 9 heavens are being mentioned in Quran. The objective is to realize that no matter if you look it like that or look it in circle, Imam is our destination. Imam is perfect human. He is the Insan-e Kamil. No one in this world is like him. Ji.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Zinat Saiba, I think she's giving here a Gnanic reference. Satma Asman is in your heart. You have reached your dry land.
Subhanallah.
Friends, if you have any questions, you can come forward. You can unmute and ask questions. If you have any comments, you can come forward as well.
I have one more question. This is Shabira.
Go ahead.
So, Niamat, I understand that, from one down where it's a corporal world, it's the physical world. And even in that sentence where it says that um, after one, there are 8 numbers, which are the examples of the 8 heavens within the ninth heaven, which together are called the physical world. But as we climb up the ladder, I understand that to merge, we go to 0, which is completely spiritual. But in a sense, as we're climbing up the ladder, are we not touching the spiritual world in the physical world?
Very good question. Very good question. So let's look at the principle. Soul is indivisible. We are never disconnected. What is the problem? Our consciousness is sleeping. We are not aware and conscious of that spiritual world. But the Momin Salik, who does the ibadat and riyazat, ilm o amal, they are awakened. Jag re bhai kahe ko sota hai. Not that we are physically sleeping. We are listening to this Ginan sitting in Jamaat Khana. We are wide awake. But there are souls which are sleeping within our being. And that's what Peer was saying. So you are absolutely correct that do we not have any connection? It is dependent on you, every one of us individually, how connected or disconnected we want to be. Beautiful question. Subhanallah.
Thank you.
So this is a beautiful picture. Naveen Sabha quickly drew it for us. It's 9 circle. So here we are saying the outermost circle is the Imam, the ninth heaven. We start our journey here. In terms of heavens we are talking about, we continue to come out, climb up, go further in our circular journey to come to the ninth heaven. The objective is one and one only, that we are talking about the number one, which is the Imam. Thank you.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Friends, if you have any more questions or any comments, you can come forward.
याली मदद भाईमा
Walai madad.
भाईमा वो जो आप समझाए ना जीरो का ह्यूमिलिटी वाला, वन में सब कुछ है और फिर ऊपर जीरो, वो थोड़ा आप हिंदी में बोलो ना भाईमा एक बार.
Okay. इसमें कुरान की एक आयत दी गई कि पैगंबर को फरमाया जाता है कि हम आपको इंस्ट्रक्शन दे रहे हैं, हम आपको समझा रहे हैं एक के बारे में, एक की हकीकत के बारे में. तो एक की जो हकीकत है वो हकीकत इमाम की है. ठीक है ना. हम इमाम के बारे में समझते हैं कि इमाम ही जो है वो हम तमाम का मालिक है, वही हमारी अक्ल कुल नफ्स कुल है जिससे हम कनेक्टेड हैं. जब हम दुनिया में फिजिकली गिनती में हैं कि आप एक हैं, मैं एक हूं, हम काउंटिंग में हैं, यानी कि आलम कसरत में है. जब हमको आलम कसरत से आलम वहादत, वो आलम जहां गिनती नहीं है, कोई गिनती नहीं है, यानी कि जीरो है, वो स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड है, वहां जाने के लिए हमको जो है उस मकाम पे पहुंचने के लिए अपने आप को कुछ नहीं समझना पड़ेगा. यानी कि हमें अपने आप को ह्यूमिलिटी का लेसन सिखाना पड़ेगा. जब भी हम कोई अच्छा काम करते हैं, हमारी तारीफ होती है, या हम कोई खिदमत करते हैं तो हमें खुशी होती है, लेकिन उस खुशी से हम सर पे अपने आप को उसको सवार कर लेते हैं कि भाई मेरा नाम है, मैं हूं. जैसे ही मैं शुरू होता है तो वहां ह्यूमिलिटी खत्म हो जाती है. इसीलिए जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट लेसन जो हाजरी माँ हमको बैतुल ख्याल के फरामीन में देते हैं वो ये कि सिट इन ह्यूमिलिटी. अगर हमको उस मकाम जो ला का मकाम है, जो किसी काउंट में नहीं है, जो जीरो है, क्योंकि इनविजिबल है ना. कितना अच्छा सवाल किया शबीरा ने कि क्या हम दुनिया में, तो हमारा कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है स्पिरिचुअलिटी से, नहीं है, क्योंकि हमको नजर नहीं आता है. लेकिन जिन्होंने अपने दिल और दिमाग को जगाया उनको पता है, लेकिन जो बेहोशी की तरह जिंदगी में जी रहे उनको तो नहीं पता है. तो एक मोमिन सालिक के लिए क्या मकाम होना चाहिए, उसको क्या करना पड़ेगा? उसके लिए सबसे पहला काम है कि अपने आप को कुछ नहीं मानना, अपने अपने अच्छे काम को भी, अच्छी मेहनत को भी इमाम के सुपुर्द कर देना कि मैंने नहीं किया, इमाम ने किया है. इससे क्या होता है कि आपके जहन से ये बात चली जाती है कि आपने ये काम किया है. जैसे ही हम कहते हैं ना कि मैंने ये किया है, फौरन से शैतान जो है ना वो हमारे ऊपर कहका लगा के फौरन घुस जाता है कि तुमने किया है, तुम अच्छे हो, तुम स्मार्ट हो, तुमने ये किया है. एकदम से हमारी पूरी जो कमाई है उसकी चोरी हो जाती है. तो सबसे पहला काम, सबसे पहला लेसन जो है वो ह्यूमिलिटी का है. मुझे मिला है तो मेरे पास है, तो दूसरों के पास क्यों नहीं, तो दूसरे तो नीचे हो गए. कोई भी ऐसा ख्याल कभी भी आता है वो हमारे लिए, हमारी रूह के लिए बहुत ही खतरनाक है. तो यहाँ पे जो इम्पोर्टेंट लेसन जो है वो ये है कि हमको अपने आप को जमात की पैरों के नीचे समझना है. जमात के जहाँ जूते पड़े हो ना, वहां अपने आप को देखना है कि मेरी हकीकत यहाँ पर है, कि इमाम जमात के जूतों के नीचे. जब अपने आप को इस तरह से करते हैं, पीर का इतना खूबसूरत गिनान है कि जारे कुछ नहीं था सो त्यारे सर्वे कुछ, कि अपने आप को जब हम कुछ नहीं गिनते हैं ना, वही जो है ना इमाम की आंखों में सबसे ज्यादा भाते हैं, क्योंकि उन्होंने अपने आप को कुछ नहीं माना होता है. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट लेसन है कि अगर हमको रूहानियत चाहिए तो रूहानियत के लिए पहला जो अमल है वो है आजिजी का, कुछ भी नहीं. और यही चीज इसमें समझाई जा रही है कि जब हम जीरो को देखते हैं, जीरो की कोई हकीकत नहीं है, लेकिन अगर जीरो के साथ वन लग जाए तो वो 10 हो गया. तो जो इंसान अपने आप को जीरो पे रखता है, जिसकी ख्वाहिश मजहब में, रूहानियत में आगे बढ़ने की है, दुनिया की बात नहीं हो रही है. दुनिया में तो सिखाया जाता है कि आप अपनी तारीफ करें, ब्रैग अबाउट योरसेल्फ. मजहब में ये चीज नहीं है. मजहब में बिल्कुल डिफरेंट टीचिंग है कि हमको इतनी आजिजी में रहना है, जमात की खिदमत में रहना है, इल्म की खिदमत में रहना है कि हमारी जो आई है ना, खुदी जो है ना वो खत्म हो जाए. जब खुदी खत्म होगी वहीं से हमारी हकीकी जिंदगी शुरू होगी। अल्लामा इकबाल का एक शेर याद आता है क्योंकि उर्दू में बोल रही हूँ। कर खुदी को इतना बुलंद कि खुद खुदा तुझसे पूछे बंदे, बता है बंदे तेरी रजा क्या है। तो खुदी को बुलंद यानी कि अपने आप को बिल्कुल खत्म कर दिया, कुछ भी नहीं हूं मैं। तो खुदा फिर पूछता है कि बता है बंदे तेरी चाहत क्या है, क्योंकि वो इमाम की नजरों में इमाम को भा जाता है, क्योंकि उसने आजिजी की। उसने अपनी किसी कमाई पे कभी भी कोई गुरूर नहीं किया, कभी भी अपने नाम के साथ चीजें लेना पसंद नहीं किया। जो है वो इमाम की मदद से है, इमाम की रहमत से है। जी
थैंक यू मैमा, थैंक यू। शुक्र शुक्र।
शुक्र।
We do have one question in the chat, but I'm not sure what is it related to. What about space and time in the ninth heaven where Imam is? So it's a little bit
Space,
incomplete.
space and time, again, you are looking at quantification. You see the space. This is the room, space. Time, we are counting the time. When you're talking about quantification, these are the things of physical world. But when we talk of ruhaniyat, it is dahar. The term is timelessness, spacelessness. So when we talk of ruhani world, there's no time, there's no space. We are talking about now the spiritual world. When we talk of Imam, Imam is physically present here in this physical world so he can guide us, because we are here in physical world and we need his guidance. But when we talk of Imam's Ruhaniyat, when we are with him in Ruhaniyat, there is no world, there is no time. It is one with him, being one soul. There is no separation. Ji.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. We can end here. We can take a comment if friends have any comment. I think it was really interesting because a lot of times we don't understand numbers as a symbols. So it was very good understanding about how to not quantify the numbers like that in spirituality. So Shukr Mala was a great understanding.
Thank you. Shukr Mawla. Thank you for friends joining and asking beautiful questions. It was really amazing session. Thank you. Yali Madad.
Yalimadad, Yalimadad.
Yeah,
Yani madad.
Yali Madad.
يعني مدد.
Yali Madad.
يعني مدد.
Yali Madad.
very much.
Yali Madad. Yali Madad.